Before this story truly unfolds, pause with me for just a moment. If you've ever felt that love is never as simple as movies make it seem, if you've ever learned that trust isn't something you build once, but something you test again and again without realizing it, if you've ever wondered how a single, honest conversation, spoken quietly without shouting, can still change the direction of an entire life, then subscribe to this channel. Because the stories shared here aren't meant to be half listened to while scrolling. They aren't meant to play in the background while you do something else. They ask for your attention. They ask for your patience. They ask you to stay until the very end, because the truth of them never arrives at the beginning. Now let me tell you how one ordinary evening, the kind you forget as soon as it ends, became the night everything inside me shifted forever. Some nights arrive with warnings. They announce themselves loudly, through raised voices, slammed doors, words thrown like weapons in moments of anger. Those nights are unmistakable. You remember them clearly because they demand to be remembered. They burn themselves into your memory with sharp edges. But the nights that do the most damage don't come that way. They don't shout. They don't crash. They don't even knock. They arrive quietly, almost politely. They blend in so perfectly with routine that you mistake them for safety. And by the time you realize what they've taken from you, it's already gone. That night was one of those. It didn't feel important when it began. It didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel like the kind of moment you would one day replay in your mind at 3 a.m, wishing you could rewrite a single sentence. It was just dinner. 2 plates set carefully on the table. Silverware placed exactly where it always had been. A single candle burning low between us. Not for romance, not for atmosphere, but because lighting it had become a habit we no longer questioned. The house around us carried 8 years of shared life in its walls. 8 years of laughter echoing through hallways. 8 years of arguments that ended in quiet apologies. 8 years of memories stitched into corners, into furniture, into the spaces between words. This house had watched us grow. And that night, it watched us drift. Something was wrong, but not in a way I could immediately explain. Nothing dramatic had happened. No fight. No bad news. No obvious reason for the tightness I felt in my chest. The silence was the first thing I noticed. Not the peaceful kind. Not the comfortable quiet that settles in when 2 people are content simply being near each other. This silence was heavy. It pressed against my ribs, made my breathing shallow without me realizing it. It didn't soothe, it suffocated. I found myself tracing my fingers slowly along the rim of my wine glass. Round and round. Over and over. The cool, smooth surface grounded me. As if touching something real might explain the unease growing. Inside me, the dark red liquid inside barely moved, perfectly still, like it was waiting. Across from me, Mark sat unnaturally quiet. Too still. Normally, dinner stretched into conversation. He talked about work frustrations, about something absurd he'd seen online, about plans we joked about making but never followed through on. There was always something. Some noise. Some connection. That night, there was nothing. No small talk. No familiar rhythm. No laughter filling the spaces between bites. The candlelight flickered between us, casting shadows across his face. His eyes were fixed on the flame, unblinking, like his body was present, but his thoughts had wandered somewhere I couldn't follow. I watched him the way only someone who has loved another person for nearly a decade can. I noticed the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers tapped lightly against the table, once, twice, then stopped completely. The rise and fall of his shoulders, just slightly faster than usual. 8 years of marriage teaches you a language that doesn't require words. And every instinct in my body was telling me something wasn't right. Are you okay? The question sounded louder than I expected. It cracked through the silence like glass breaking. Mark looked up suddenly, almost startled, as if he'd forgotten I was even there. His eyes met mine for a split second before darting away again. Yeah, he said quickly. Too quickly. Just thinking. Those 2 words had become his shield over the years. Whenever something weighed on him. Whenever he didn't know how to say what he was feeling. Whenever he wasn't ready to open a door. That's what he said. Just thinking. And every time, it meant the same thing. Something was wrong. I pushed my chair back slowly. The legs scraped softly against the floor, the sound strangely loud in the quiet room. I walked around the table and sat beside him instead of across from him. Suddenly, the distance between us felt important. I placed my hand gently over his. "Talk to me," I said quietly. "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together." For a long moment he didn't move. Then he exhaled. Not a normal breath, but a long, slow release, like someone finally letting go of something they'd been holding inside for far too long. He turned toward me and really looked at me. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," he said. My stomach tightened instantly. Not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. Careful, deliberate, measured. Like every word carried weight. Like once spoken, they couldn't be taken back. Something that's been on my mind for a long time. I swallowed, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Okay," I said. "What is it?" He glanced down at our hands, still intertwined, then back up at me. "It's not bad," he said quickly. "Not like that." That didn't help. If anything, it made my heart beat faster. "Then what is it?" I asked. He hesitated. Seconds stretched. The candle flickered. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second suddenly impossible to ignore. Finally he spoke. "I have a fantasy." The word landed between us like something solid. Heavy. Unavoidable. I blinked. "A fantasy?" I repeated. He nodded slowly. "Something I've never told anyone," he said. "Not even you." That sentence alone made my thoughts spiral. In 8 years, we had shared everything, or so I believed. Dreams, failures, fears, insecurities, even the parts of ourselves we weren't proud of. The idea that he had carried something alone for years, something this significant, made my chest feel tight. "What do you mean?" I asked carefully. He took another breath. "It's not about anyone else," he said. "It's about us." That surprised me. "About doing something together," he continued. "Something most couples never would." I stared at him, trying to assemble his words into something that made sense. He must have seen the confusion on my face because he squeezed my hand gently. "Please," he said softly. "Just hear me out before you decide anything." I hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." What he said next didn't come all at once. Each sentence was slow, carefully chosen, like he had rehearsed them in his mind 100 times before daring to say them aloud. And when he finally finished, I couldn't speak. The room felt different, like the air itself had shifted. My thoughts collided with each other. First came disbelief, then confusion, then an unexpected flicker of curiosity. And beneath all of it, fear. "You've been thinking about this for a while," I said finally. He nodded. "For years," he admitted quietly. "I just never knew how to tell you." "Why now?" I asked. "Because I trust you," he said without hesitation. "And because I didn't want to keep a secret from you anymore." There was no manipulation in his eyes. No pressure. Just honesty, raw and exposed. And somehow, that made it harder.